Thank you, Sean. So welcome everybody. My name is Allie. I am a physical therapist and a nationally certified Pilates instructor, and I am based out of the Boston area. So it's a nice early class for me. But today's program is going to be a 30-minute session on lower back pain. It's going to be mostly movement based. We'll do some stretching, some strengthening. We're going to talk a little bit about ergonomics at the end. And then we will leave time for Q&A. So if at any point you guys have a question, write it to me in the chat. We'll go over that all at the end. And we're lucky to have a nice small group this morning, so we can really have a nice discussion about whatever comes to mind for you guys. So this class is meant to be for you and for you to feel good. I offer a number of modifications throughout this class because everyone's backs are different. So please listen to your body. Please take the modification that feels good for your back. So no shame in that. Everybody's bodies are going to move a little different at different times throughout the day. So I just encourage you to listen to what your body's telling you. We're going to start lying down on your back. And if you guys are just logging in, all you need is space to lie down. You can have a beach blanket, a yoga mat, a towel, even just soft carpet. And if you lie down right away and you notice some tension in your neck, go ahead and grab a small pillow. You can use a pillow under your head. Also, if you notice when you lie down any pressure in your back, go ahead and bend your knees. So you're just going to find a comfortable position lying down. And I'm going to join you guys in just a moment. I just want to make sure that I can see everyone set up. And just allow your body to relax and melt down on the mat. So I know for a lot of you, this is partway through your day. You've probably already been working a little bit. Take a moment to just settle in, adding a small tuck to your chin, lengthening the back of your neck, and just start to scan your body. And there's no right or wrong. You're just noticing how your body feels on the mat this morning. And scanning from the very top of your head down to your shoulders, hips, knees, ankles, and just notice how your body's feeling. Maybe any spots of tension, any differences from side to side. And as you start to get in tune with your body, start to notice your breath. And so our breath can move in 3 dimensions. It can be up high in our shoulders. It can be wide out to the side in our ribs. And it can be wide, expanding from front to back, down low in our belly. I just want you to notice if your breath is high in your shoulders. That can sometimes happen with certain seated postures, but that type of breathing pattern is really only meant for times of exertion. So right now, as we're relaxing and getting comfortable on our mat, try and send your breath down a little bit lower, maybe into your belly and wide out to the side in the ribs. Good. We're going to take a couple more deep breaths here, maybe filling your air with a little bit more expansion each time. And I'm going to join you guys down on the mat. We'll try one more deep breath here together. And then if your legs are flat on your mat, go ahead and bend your knees, planting your feet down flat. Feet are about hip distance apart. So we're going to start to introduce our first movement into our lower back this class. And that's going to be with a pelvic tilt. So you're going to gently start to rock your pelvis front to back. Imagine closing the space under your lower back and then opening the space under your lower back. This can start a little bit stiff, and I want you to work within your spine's comfortable range of motion. But hopefully, as you move a little bit, it feels a little easier, like your spine is starting to loosen up. And this should be gentle. It shouldn't be painful. You're just working to close that space and rock your tailbone towards your toes, opening the space under your low back. So we'll try a couple more here. And there's no right or wrong way to breathe with this one, as long as you are breathing. So just make sure that you're not holding your breath through this series. We'll do 2 more here. And last time. Good. From here, we're going to introduce some gentle rotation into your back. So walk your feet closer towards one another. Arms will rest down by your side. From here, you're going to start to rock your legs side to side, but you're only letting your legs go as far as you can without any soreness or strain on your lower back. So it might be different from side to side, and that's okay. It's also fine for your hips to lift, but I want you to keep your shoulders down on the mat. That helps to ensure that the rotation comes from your lower back and not your upper back. So nice and easy side to side. This is also an exercise where as you start to move, you may find your range of motion increases slightly. So we're going to try a few more here, just noticing how our body feels early on in class. And 2 more. Good, guys. Last time, and we'll settle right in the middle. Awesome. So separate your feet once again to about hip distance apart. And you want your heels to be bent close enough so you can tap them with your fingertips. So your feet are going to be fairly close to your bottom. And we're going to start with our first strengthening exercise of the day, which is a bridge. And that's a strengthening exercise for our hips, our glute muscles. Our glute muscles are really important to support our spine when we walk, when we go up and down stairs, and certainly when we're lifting things. So what we're going to try today is a lift up and just hold for a moment. So up in this high bridge, your hips are lifted off the floor. Bring your hands to your glutes or your bottom muscles. And I want you to make sure that they're actually on, they're actually working. Sometimes our low back does the work instead of our glutes. Now, if you feel any pressure in your low back, think about drawing the front of your rib cage down. So you're actually softening across your chest, connecting the tops of your ribs, the bottom of your ribs to the top of your hip. And just notice that. So once you're here, you have the option to just hold this bridge. Otherwise, we're going to add a gentle movement. And we're going to softly roll down. So I want you to let one vertebrae at a time roll down onto the mat. And then we're going to pick one vertebrae at a time up off the mat, curling your back, hips, and then rib cage up into your bridge again. So if you can imagine your spine like a string of pearls, we're picking up one pearl at a time, and then we're gently placing each pearl back down into that same spot, rolling down. Now, if your back is a little bit stiff, it may not feel quite like a roll, but again, as you work through this motion, it should get a little bit easier to gently roll the spine up and roll it back down. We're going to try just 2 more, and I'm going to come take a peek at the camera so I can give you guys some feedback on form here. Good, so Arlene, soften your ribs and your chest down onto the mat a little bit. Good, and Maria, you can walk your feet just a little bit closer together. Beautiful form there, guys. Nice, Emma, that looks great. And on your last one, we're gonna roll all the way back down. Now, we're gonna progress a little bit and try some work on single leg. But if your back was already a little bit sore or you're somewhat new to my classes, I would recommend that you do a second set of the double leg bridges. If you would like to progress and try that single leg bridge, go ahead and lift your hips up to the ceiling. Make sure that both hips are up at the same height, and then bring one leg to a tabletop position. So I'm lifting my right leg up. From here, I'm gonna lower, tap my hips to the floor and lift up. So while it's my, in this case, left leg doing the work of lifting and lowering, I'm actually thinking about my right hip because it really wants to sag to the floor. I'm working on pressing that right hip up a little bit higher so that it stays level with my left. One more time here, and then we switch the feet. So plant your right foot down, bring the left leg up and hold, and start to lower and lift. And I think you'll find when you do these single leg bridges, one side is much harder than the other. And that's normal. We have sort of secretly in our mind one leg that tends to be dominant, believe it or not. We'll try 2 more here. And last time, drop your hips down and drop your feet down. Take a little rest. You can rock your legs side to side. Nice job there, guys. So we're going to go into our next strengthening exercise, this time for the front side of our body. So we just exercised through the back to support our spine. Now we're going to work into our core a little bit. So bring your right knee in towards your chest. You're going to hug that knee with both hands. And then go ahead and extend the left leg out long. Now, if this already feels like pressure on your back, bring your left leg up a little bit higher. If this feels really easy, you're going to lower that left leg down towards the floor. From here, go ahead and switch your legs in space. And I want you guys to imagine I just put a cup of tea right onto your stomach. You want to try and move your legs here without disrupting that cup of tea. So your trunk is nice and steady as you switch your legs in space. Now, you have the option to stay here. Otherwise, we're going to build and add a little deeper stretch by straightening both legs and kicking them up to the ceiling in a scissoring pattern. And this will give you a little bigger stretch on your hamstring muscles if you feel comfortable with that. Now, you can always keep a soft bend in your knees. You can also always hold behind your knee instead of up high at your ankle. So whatever feels comfortable for you, that magic cup of tea is still balancing on our trunk. We go for 3 and 2. Last time, good, hug both knees in. So we're gonna rock side to side and then eventually use that rocking motion to come all the way up to a seated position. So once you're there, allow your feet to rest down on the mat. You can bring your feet together, your knees together, and your hands are going to come behind your thighs. So elbows are lifted out to the side, hands are behind the thighs. You're using the support of your hands on your thighs to gently roll your spine backwards. And then you're going to pull yourself up, lifting your chest tall, maybe opening your shoulders back like you're shining a flashlight out your sternum. So we're just using the support of our arms to almost traction and pull our spine into the two extremes of its movement. Now, if you feel pinching in the front of your hips here, just open your legs out to the side a little bit and you can do the same thing. So sometimes if our hip flexors are tight, they limit our movement in this pattern. 2 more like this, and then we're going to add in a little strengthening component. 1 more time, we're going to rock back and hold this position. Let go with your hands and try and keep your spine nice and still. Now, maybe you just hold this position. You can stay here. Otherwise, you're going to try and keep your shoulders and hips still and start to move one arm out to the side. So I'm actually going to turn to face you guys and reach one arm out to the side, back through the center. So you'll find your body wanting to rotate and twist with that arm. You're actually working to try and stay centered. Try 2 more. Last time. Good. Other side. Slow in and out. You're only moving that arm as far as you can keep the rest of your body still. And again, there's no right or wrong. It's not really an arm exercise here. I don't care if you can only move your arm 2 inches. That's okay. We go for 2. And last time, reach your fingertips up and over. You're going to dive and just gently stretch your back, reaching your fingertips towards your toes. Good, guys. Take a little breath here. From this position, go ahead and walk your hands behind your hips, maybe about 6 to 8 inches behind your hips. We're going to start to stretch our hip muscles. So press your chest open and proud, and then we're crossing our left ankle on top of our right thigh. So I'll turn again so you can see my ankle and thigh in that figure 4 position. And maybe you feel a stretch already in that left hip. You can adjust the intensity of this stretch by either sliding your right foot away to decrease the intensity or sliding your right foot closer to your bottom to increase that intensity. And I want it to feel like a stretch, not a strain, and certainly not painful. So find that sweet spot where you have a nice stretch in the outside of your hip muscles. And the reason we stretch our hip muscles is because they so closely interact with how our back moves that the more flexible our hips are, the less stress and strain we feel on our backs. Good, guys. So now go ahead and place that left foot down. We're going to do the same thing on the right side. So place your right ankle on top of your left thigh. And then once again, you can bend and straighten your left leg until you find that sweet spot where it's a stretch but not a strain on your right hip. So you should feel the stretch this time on the outside of your right hip. And again, notice if your shoulders have started to sag. We want good posture, even though we're just stretching. So go ahead and press into your hands behind you. That should actually help you to feel a little deeper stretch in this position. So we'll take one more deep breath here. And then lower down. And we're going to flip right on over to an all fours position. So when you set up in the all fours position, if you have knee sensitivity, this is another time where you may want to put a little pillow under your knees, or you can certainly roll up your mat a couple times to give yourself some extra padding. If you have any wrist sensitivity, you're going to come down onto your forearms. Okay, so once you're in this setup, and I'll tuck in my shirt so you guys can see a little better. Once you're in this setup, we're going to start to move through a cat-cow. So we're gently rounding our spine and then dropping our spine down into a little bit of extension. And we're just working within your spine's comfortable range of motion. So it probably looks different than your neighbor. It may look different than my spine, just feeling that range. And then we're going to settle somewhere halfway in between. So that's our neutral spine position. Now that hip stretching we just did, we're going to try and move our hips a little bit here. But the challenge of this exercise is to keep your spine nice and still. So what we're going to do is, using our right leg, you're going to start to draw circles with your hip. They can be as big or as small as you want, but try and keep your spine nice and still. So you might notice that all of a sudden all your body weight shifted to the left hip. Challenge yourself to actually push a little body weight to the right. We'll do two more. And last time, bring that right knee down. We're going to try the same thing on the left side. So recenter, make sure you're in that neutral spine position, and then try the same circles on the left hip. And so this time you're thinking about shifting your weight over to that left side, and hopefully you can feel a little bit in your core muscles helping you to keep that spine nice and still. And last time there, come all the way down. Nice job, guys. We're going to lie down right onto our stomachs now. When you lie down on your stomach, it's normal to feel a slight pressure in your lower back. This is a position of extension, and so it's actually often a stretch for our spines because we spend so much time in flexion, the opposite position. If it's uncomfortable, add a pillow underneath your hips here as well. But for now, just notice sort of how your body's feeling. You're going to plant your hands underneath your shoulders and slowly start to press up to lift your back. And so maybe you can only lift into your upper back comfortably. Maybe you can press all the way up and lift into your lower back. So again, work within what's comfortable for your spine. You can make this range of motion as big or as small as you want, but I encourage you guys to move. So I don't want it to be a static stretch where you're holding it for a long time. I want you to just move up and down. A lot of times our back, especially when we start to stretch it, it doesn't really like static stretching. It likes this type of dynamic movement because it brings a little bit more blood flow to the area. It helps to loosen up some of the tissue. Again, if you feel pinching in the low back, just separate your feet a little bit wider. See if that helps. Sometimes that can be a little trick. We'll try two more here. Good, guys. And one more time. And then go ahead and press your hips up and back, and you're gonna round into a small child's pose or shell stretch. So this time you're sitting your hips back, walking your fingertips forward, maybe even resting your head down onto the mat. So whatever feels comfortable for you here. And we'll take one more deep breath in this position, and then carefully come on up once again. So our next exercise is gonna be another strengthening exercise for the spine, and it's a plank. And I wanna show you guys two options, because we're not gonna hold the plank, we are gonna move in and out. So first option is to be up on your hands and toes, and we're gonna push back and come forward into a plank. The second option is to be down on your knees and hands, and then push back into that child's pose and shift forward into a plank. You can actually do this one down on your forearms as well. It's just a much smaller range of motion. But if you know that your wrists need that support, it's totally fine. So I'm gonna have everybody pick your favorite plank posture that feels right for your body. And we'll set up and just hold that plank for just a moment. Imagine your spine as long and as tall as it's ever been. And then gently lift your hips up, look down towards your toes, and then glide forward, come back to that plank. Feel that gentle stretch, whether you're down on your knees or up on your feet as you press back. Try 3 more like that, and shift forward. Good. 2 more, and shift forward. Excellent. 1 more time, push back, and gently shift forward. Come all the way down and take a rest. Awesome work here, guys. So we've got 1 more spine movement to explore today. And so you're gonna sit down on the left hip. So my feet are splayed off to the side. You're sitting down on your left hip. If when you sit down in this posture, your hips feel tight or sore, you can sit on your pillow here as well. So once we're set up here, left hand is gonna go down onto the floor. So far we've explored movement in our spine, bending forward, bending backwards, and twisting. Now we're gonna look at moving our spine sideways in a side bending motion. So before we move and add our top arm, I want you guys to sag into that left arm. So my left side is getting a gentle stretch, and then I'm gonna push into my left shoulder to gently stretch that right side. So if you guys can imagine a rainbow shape or a C shape, I'm finding that rainbow shape in my left side, and then I'm pushing that rainbow shape over to my right side. We're gonna add in the arms. So gentle rainbow shape in the left side, reach up and over with your right arm, find a deeper stretch. We bring the right arm down, and then we bring the right arm up. Notice if you're starting to lean forward, try and imagine like your whole spine is up against the wall. And that helps us to keep the movement just in that sideways bending position. And again, work within a gentle range for your spine. It should be comfortable. But you can imagine the side of your rib cage here on that right side like an accordion, opening and closing. We'll try 1 more like that, and you're gonna hold that big stretch over. Now, allow your right hand to tap down onto the floor and opening back up. So this is adding in a rotation once again. And this time the rotation is actually for our upper back. So we did rotation earlier for our lower back. This is rotation for your upper back. You may not be able to touch the floor, that's okay. Just work to tip your right hand down towards the floor and then come back up to center. Just 1 more time like that. And back up to center, bring your hands down. Now, if you want to try a fancy transition to the other side, bring your hands behind you and kick your feet up and over to the other side. Otherwise, we're just going to come down to sit on our right hip with our legs splayed off to the left. Again, always okay to grab your pillow here to prop yourself up if you need. Opening the arms up, we're going to plant that right hand down. We're going to start allowing that right side to sag down, and then use our right hand to press away, finding the stretch through the left side. So my right hand here is quite active. I'm really pushing my hand into the floor to help enhance that stretch. We're now going to add in the overhead reach of our left arm and then bring it down. So imagine now that accordion has shifted to the left side of your body. You're opening and closing that side up. And you can enhance this stretch with your breath. There's no right or wrong way to breathe, but taking deep breaths here actually helps you get a deeper stretch because it moves your rib cage. And your rib cage is attached to your upper back. So we're going to hold on over on this next stretch and go ahead and rotate, tap the left hand to the floor, open it up to the ceiling. Rotate and tap to the floor and lift up to the ceiling. You guys are doing wonderful here. We'll do 4 more and lift. It is also normal on this side to have a difference from side to side. That usually has more to do with which side is your dominant arm. One more time here and open all the way up. Nice work there, guys. Good. So you can stay seated comfortably on your mat. I'm just going to come in a little bit closer so we can talk about ergonomics. So if you've taken my class before, every week we talk a little, about a different topic related to ergonomics. Today I want to talk about standing desks. And so they're sort of trendy right now. Maybe you guys are using a standing desk at your office. But when it relates to lower back pain, standing desks can be really, really beneficial. But there's a couple things that I think are helpful if you are considering using a standing desk and sort of how to integrate that in your home environment. So one of the best ways I have found, in absence of buying an expensive desk setup for your house, is to use the highest countertop that you have. Maybe it's your kitchen counter or some sort of storage center, and then putting shoe boxes or reams of paper on top of your countertop and adding your computer screen or laptop to that setup. So your goal when you find a standing desk setup is that it's high enough so that your screen is at the height of your eyes. And so often it's actually much, much higher than you think it needs to be. And so maybe you need, like for myself, I'm about 5 feet 4 inches. I need a good 2 to 3 shoe boxes to stand comfortably. You can also use a larger box if you were to have that. My other recommendation, if you start to integrate a standing setup, is that going from sitting 8 hours a day to standing 8 hours a day is like going from running not at all to running a marathon. There's an endurance factor to doing a standing desk. So what I recommend is adding it in small bits. If you can stand for 1 hour out of your 8 hours of the day, start there and then build little bits. Ideally, I actually like to stand maybe for a portion of each hour. So maybe you stand for 10 or 20 minutes of each hour. But I know practically speaking, changing your setup from high to low is not always easy, especially if you're not using a laptop. The other question I get a lot is, okay, if I put my laptop up that high, how am I going to type when my fingers have to reach that high? I think the best add-on that you could get would be an external keyboard, so a wireless keyboard that you can then place at a more comfortable height for your shoulders. But if that's not possible, I think it's always more important to have the screen height up at the appropriate spot for your neck and your back, and then just take breaks from having your arms up high. Know that it will be a little bit fatiguing, but if you give yourself those dedicated breaks throughout the day to let your shoulders rest, I think it's doable. So what I hope you guys take from class today is that you don't need to do this whole routine all at once every single day. But I hope that you take a couple of the stretches that you really like or that seem to work throughout for your body and integrate them throughout your day. So if every hour or two you find 1 or 2 of these stretches and you add them in, it can make a big difference breaking up your day. Like I mentioned in class, our spines, they don't like to stay still. They actually really like movement, and it's gentle movement. It doesn't have to be strenuous, but just breaking up your day and adding bits of movement can make a huge difference in how your back feels by the end of the day. So that being said, I know we're almost out of time here already, but I want to give some time to answer your questions. I know there's a couple in the chat already. So the first question I have, is it normal for your knees to hurt during the bridge? Yes and no. Sometimes having your knees bent as much as I ask you guys to bend them, if you have really tight hip flexors or quads, that can put a little bit of pressure on your kneecap. If that's the case, just walk your feet out a little bit farther. And as you work up to doing the bridging exercise, you can practice walking them in closer. The next question, is it normal for clicking in the back when you move the knees side to side? Yes, that's a mobility exercise. And so sometimes when you hear that clicking in your back, what happens on a sciencey level is that you have fluid in between each of your vertebrae. And when you move that fluid quickly, it turns the fluid into a gas. And because gas takes up more space than fluid does, it makes a little popping noise. It's not a bad thing. Now, if that popping comes with lots of pain, that's a different story, but it's actually kind of a good sign if you're feeling some movement that you're actually mobilizing your spine. There's another question here. When I stand and press my hips forward, I get a click in my lower back. Is this bad for me? Same idea. As long as it's not coming with pain, clicking in your back is okay. As you know, you want to be gentle with how you move your spine, but I think generally speaking, it's just telling you you're getting some mobility in your in your back. So awesome, guys. I don't see any other questions in the chat. If you guys have any more, I can answer one more question, or if you want to unmute yourself and ask, I'm happy to answer that. But please try and stick around so you guys can give us feedback. Sean is going to go over that feedback app once again. It was wonderful to have you guys in class this morning, and I hope that you can join me again next week.